Hi everyone, how's it going? This is Eden of Light Cycle Astrology. Welcome back to the channel, friends. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Today we are doing Mantic Monday episode 43, where we are taking a look at some of the astrology coming for us in the week ahead. And today we are going to take a look at 4 ways to think about or maybe notice Venus in opposition to Pluto. As for me, this is going to be what I think will be the most noticeable or felt astrology for the week ahead for us. We are also going to touch upon the Mars-Uranus conjunction that is also beginning to form later in the week, but we'll revisit that next week as that's actually coming to perfection the following week. So this week we'll touch on the Mars-Uranus conjunction, but then we'll get more into the 4 ways or a few different angles that you could see what it's like when Venus is in opposition to Pluto. Before we get into it, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit notifications so you don't miss any videos. Leave some comments in the comment section, and you can find me at lightcycleastrology.com. All right, well, let's pull up the real-time clock, and we'll spend a few moments just taking a look at some of the astrology that is coming through, because I only make a video 1 time a week, and I don't have time to make videos about all of the astrology coming through. I like to at least point out some of the things that are happening in the week, because it's just kind of nice to round out the interpretation of it. Like, for instance, if we're talking about a Venus-Pluto opposition, it sort of helps to see what that might be entailing if we, are at least peripherally aware of maybe some of the other things. So the week starts out here for us on Monday. This is just, for me, an interesting thing of note. We have the lights in mutual reception on Monday. Now, this is going to move out of mutual reception very soon, because the moon will then move out of Leo into Virgo. But mutual reception is just this idea, this traditional ancient astrology idea, that you have 2 planets in each other's signs. But when it is the lights, when it's the sun and the moon that are in each other's signs, I just think that that is kind of special. You don't really get that at any other time of the year, except for when the sun is in the sign of Cancer and will be in the moon's sign. And then shortly after a new moon, you get the moon in the sun's sign, the neighboring sign. Now, normally, neighboring signs don't see one another. They don't have an aspectual relationship. So you get kind of almost a roundabout way where the lights almost hang out in like a prolonged new moon kind of a vibe. But also the lights, of course, when you, especially calling them the lights, metaphorically or symbolically, they can represent that sense of illumination, of visibility, of bright and hopeful, optimistic ways that we see forward. So for me, this week is carrying, among other themes, it's carrying along this theme that there is perhaps a prolonged newness or beginning, or there is kind of a hopeful, bright way forward. Maybe there is excitement in the air. There's just those themes coming along with it, I feel like. And these are actually enhanced or supported if we move to Thursday of this week, I believe, where we begin to, on Thursday, we get 2 aspects that perfect. We get the sun perfecting a trine to Saturn, and we also get Venus, before it enters Leo, perfecting a trine to Neptune. So you get almost like similar kinds of themes where it's like sun trine Saturn, maybe something like the ability to really see your way through something difficult or hard, almost as if you have this great imagination, of course. And then Venus with Neptune is going to speak to some almost like limitless romanticism, or something that is just this very this yearning that supports kind of imagination and maybe artistry or something that is witness to pleasant or harmonious relationships or something like that. Now, all of this astrology can, of course, be looked at on the opposite side of the positive effects. There are negative effects that it's almost like astrology is a lot like medicine. It's like you can take anything as medicine, but there are always side effects with every medicine, and that's kind of the way astrology is. Whether you're looking at a good, quote unquote, good transit like a trine or a sextile, or even a negative aspect like an opposition, where generally this drug does this, but it also has this side effect, and so. But anyway, that is Thursday. Now, sometime between Thursday, Friday, depending on where you are on the planet, Venus is going to enter Leo and perfect an opposition to Pluto. Last week, we talked about Mercury entering Leo and perfecting an opposition to Pluto. And then as time goes on, we'll eventually be noticing that the sun will, of course, enter Leo and then oppose Pluto. And that's, we have Pluto at the very beginning degrees of Aquarius. So any planet that enters Leo is going to sort of face off with that dark lord. So we're going to talk more in detail on the Venus opposed Pluto this week as one of the key astrology features of the week. But just briefly here, just to round out the last few days after Friday here, on Sunday, we are going to get something really, really cool. Sunday begins a long 3 to 4 week transit between the Sun and Mars. The Sun and Mars begin to form a sextile with one another, and then because both of these planets are tracking at very similar speeds, it takes a long time for that aspect to perfect and then separate. So we're looking at all the way until August the 6th, it's a little over 3 weeks that we're going to get this Mars-Sun sextile energy just hanging around. And of course, this is very important to note because we are also going to, at the beginning of next week, get that perfection between Mars and Uranus by conjunction or adherence, which is the same thing. But in the ancient world, ancient astrologers would have called it a adherence, and that carries that language that sort of tells you it's like the two planets are sort of welding their energy together in a very strong way. And of course, so you can get all kinds of things like that. But interesting to note this because in the ancient world, of course, ancient astrologers did not yet know about the planet Uranus. So they would have been focusing on this long-lasting sextile, most likely between the Sun and Mars at that time, and sort of delineating for that. So that is what's happening on Sundays. We're beginning to get that sextile. And then last is going to be the following Monday. We are going to get that perfected adherence or exact conjunction between Mars and Uranus. And of course, we are going to touch briefly on this energy this week because it's important, and I think it's probably going to be noticed, and I want you guys to be prepared for that. But then next week we'll do more on it and try to dive a little deeper on that. So that is the week. Now let's get into some interpretive narratives for this week from the standpoint of this Mars-Uranus conjunction that is setting itself up, and then more with the Venus-Pluto narratives that are coming through for us. Okay, so more briefly this week and then more deeply next week, we have Mars-Uranus narratives, of course, are going to be things like angry outbursts or freak accidents or revolutionary fighting or feeling defiant. Now it's just like it has this sense of like on the surface you accept nothing. You're just in fighting mode. You're just sort of ready to defy or revolt on some level, and it's just kind of the spirit in the air. It may not even be a kind of thing where you're thinking about something specific that is like, that's it, that's all I can take, I can't take anymore. It might not even be anything that you can pinpoint and go, yeah, that's what's setting me off. It could be more like, I have no clue what's setting me off, but man, I'm just feeling like I'm ready to go. There's kind of that real defiant spirit in the air. But you also get things like surpassing or surprising athletic feats. Now, I forget her name. If anybody knows who I'm talking about out there, put it in the chat or the comments. But I was listening to Brett Weinstein on the Dark Horse podcast, and he was talking about that in female basketball, there is a player that is like a phenom. She is catching the basketball world on storm, bringing in all sorts of attention because she's like almost like a Michael Jordan of female basketball at this time. She's just doing these incredible feats of athleticism. And Mars and Uranus sort of, you get that because Mars is real competitive and athletic and sporty and things like that. And Uranus, one way to think about Uranus that for me resonates is almost like the Olympian that is carrying the torch, right, in the marathon and is perhaps breaking world records or something like that. But Uranus has this ability to sort of break through previous limitations, and Mars connects with things that are athletic. So I wouldn't be surprised if around this time we begin to get stories of athletes that are doing something that athletes have never done, or there's a breakthrough in athleticism on some level. But of course, a cousin of that could be something like the outbreak of war. Now, I know, as almost everybody knows, war is something that it seems to be on the increase in the last few years. And so that is, unfortunately, one of the monikers of a Mars-Uranus is definitely sort of the incitement or maybe even the potential for conflict to come out of nowhere that we weren't aware of was even about to burst or something like that, unfortunately. But of course, you get things like technology with Uranus as well. So maybe we could see innovation in the technology that has to do with defensive systems, cybersecurity, just war tech in general, or anything like that. So that's just briefly a little bit of what you get with Mars-Uranus coming into a conjunction. Excuse me. But now let's dive into this Venus-Pluto narrative. Number one is going to be the intensity in the area of relationship. This is just kind of what's the simplest, most broadest thing that you might expect from Venus entering Leo and then opposing Pluto. It could be something like, just broadly speaking, for some reason or another, there's just an intensification at this moment where things just seem to go down a deeper rabbit hole in relationships. It's neither good nor bad, although of course it can be one of those. But it might just feel as though there's something more heavy or weighty, or the need to sort of go deeper into the connections that we have with others, maybe deeper conversations or clearing out some old, baggage or fights or something like that. Or maybe there is just a peripheral circumstantial thing that comes along that just speaks to the need. Like that's the pressing thing, is like, okay, I've got to relate to this person or situation in a way that there's no surface level, BS, or there's the necessity to sort of really get into a very cathartic, truthful mode with within a relationship for maybe some peripheral circumstance, like for instance, let's say moving or something, and maybe the circumstance of packing up the house or whatever just puts you in a more deeper space with your partner, and things become sort of intensified because it's just out of the ordinary or something like that. That's one narrative that you could see, just circumstantially things bringing relationships kind of in more of an intense connection, or like the need to, for some reason, cut through the fluff and sort of dive deeper into a relationship to purge or to reconnect, or something along those lines. Excuse me. Okay, and narrative theme number 2 is going to be, of course, with Pluto, we get the coercion sometimes, or like the power manipulation, the Machiavellian kind of thing that can come along with it, the darker subterranean power that is just surging through, and that, like that old saying that like money is the root of all evil, and originally money was tied with gold, right? And gold is one of those things that comes from the underworld. Gold is kind of a Plutonian element, or belonging to the plutonium realm, if you were. So when you have that Plutonian energy touching things, it can represent that the deep, powerful forces that I think in nature are just inert. They're not humanized. They're not good or bad. They're not playing on one side against another. But when we as humans get in touch with that energy and that power surges through us or other people, one of the things that you can see is that there's a tendency towards manipulation, power struggles, Machiavellian games, things like that, right? So definitely one of the things that sometimes comes, no, it's not saying that this is 100%, somebody's going to take advantage of you or something like that. But one of the things that can present itself when Pluto and Venus stand in opposition, of course, is going to be something like the coercion or power struggle inside relationships or within relational dynamics between people or groups or anything like that. So kind of a negative one, but something to be aware of at the same time, because like I say, it's when people are in touch with that power, it's easier to sort of go off the rails and go, whoa, I got possessed by that, feeling that juice flowing through me. And I didn't realize that I was even, doing something on that level. And it can surprise us. So, of course, one of the reasons we even practice astrology is because it can help us stay aware of things that may take a hold of us and possess us at certain times. And it's nice to do it without the judgment. I'm not saying that only bad people will be coercive. I think anybody can be coercive, whether it's a little bit or a lot of it, and if we are aware that is sort of in the air, it can be a time of exploring our deep motivations, especially around what we desire or want with Venus and Pluto. But it's definitely something that you just want to be aware of, and will help you navigate things with other people. If you feel like maybe they're pushing too hard with something on you, and you're like, I don't want to do that, but then it just feels like it's just like they're trying to almost overcome or overpower you in some way. Or we lose ourselves a little bit and we sort of push too hard on somebody else. That can be something that comes through it at this time. Okay, the theme narrative number 3 is going to be strong libido, i.e., sexuality, strong libido or attraction towards anything dark, perhaps morbid, hidden, taboo, secretive, and that seizes you. I think for me, when I was trying to type out the language of this on my notes, when I came to that word seize, that feels so Pluto. It just you can't move under its grip, right? Becoming incredibly enamored or attracted to something. And also remember, we have a Venus trine Neptune aspect that is happening alongside of this, this week. So the tendency to get really seized or grabbed by something we are attracted to, and it might be as something as little as just really vibing with a dark series on Netflix that just is like this dark fantasy, and it has this whole underworldly thing. Like, for instance, I've been just like, I don't know, 1 or 2 episodes a night just to decompress. I've been watching the Ozark series on Netflix, and I watched it a long time ago. Actually, Ozark was like the first series I think I ever watched on Netflix way back in the day. And I usually don't have time to watch anything these days, but for some reason, I just remembered. I was like, that's a really good series. I think I'll watch that again. And the decision for me was very casual, but as I'm going through, I don't know, like 9 or 10 episodes at this point, oh man, this is it a dark series? It's so good, but at the same time, there are things that I don't even want to see, and it's just like, man, this is also very powerful in a really, really morbid, horrific, violent way. And you get that kind of with Venus and Pluto. Sometimes you get just like, what's entertaining right now is something darker, mysterious, hidden, secretive, taboo. What am I attracted to? I'm strangely attracted to things like that as well for some reason. And maybe it has a sexual dimension to it. But secret things, hidden things we don't normally investigate, all of those things could somehow come up right now and be something that just sort of seizes us and is attractive to us on some level. Okay, number 4, the last one here. I really like this one. We have to remember that Venus is tangentially connected to cleanliness. Venus is not often thought about cleanliness, but if you think about the symbolic archetypal realm of Venus that is related to beauty, and you don't normally think of beautiful things if they are dirty, or you don't. Maybe I said that backwards. You don't normally think of things that are dirty as being beautiful, although they can be. But generally, beauty is connected to things that are clean or immaculate or symmetrical or something like that. So with Pluto touching Venus, it could be that, especially with Venus in the sun sign, it's like, I want to open up the cupboards and flush out the darkness. I want to, I want the beauty of the light to just sort of vanquish and annihilate anything hidden, dark, decaying, that's in dark corners or dark places. I'm going to turn over the house and dust everything. But I think this can also be presenting itself with the same spirit in the form of relationships, right? Where you use Venus as almost like a salve of healing or something like that, like an agent of goodness that could come along and heal, reconcile, mend bonds in relationships, and how Pluto might speak to that you have to go into more evasive, deep surgery to sort of purge out the dark things. But something like at the end of it comes the healing, right? Like like getting like a splinter that's really buried itself deep under the skin, and you really have to take that needle, you know, which nobody likes, right? And you have to sort of pick at it and dig at it, and it's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be pleasant. But if you can get the darn thing out, then the healing can take place. You can clean it. You can hydrogen peroxide. Number 4, deep cleaning, cleansing out, healing, or the reconciliation of spaces or relationships, I think is probably one of the most useful and common things that you get with a sun opposed Pluto. Now, we never touched that, or sorry, Venus opposed Pluto. Now, we never touched that Venus is in the sun's sign opposing Pluto in Aquarius, Saturn sign. So you could bring that element in here as well with something like we might have to be careful of kind of a blinding vanity that elicits a powerful response from other people. But if there was a number 5, it would be something like that. But anyway, that is my list of things that you may notice along with this astrology this week, and I hope that you guys have found this useful. Let me know in the comments what you thought, and I'll be back next week and we'll dive deeper into that Mars-Uranus conjunction that is going to be perfecting next Monday. Until then, hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you then. Bye for now.